All right, welcome everybody. This is the Philadelphia Bitcoin Club, and today we're going to have the chance to meet one of the founders of the SeedHammer Project. A little bit about the Philadelphia Bitcoin Club. We started back in November of 2021. Started off pretty small. We're still trying to grow our network here. Most recently, we just joined with three other Bitcoin clubs in the state of Pennsylvania. We're all joining efforts together to create the Pennsylvania Bitcoin Network. Where each individual nodes spread out, looking to grow. We just added another club, a Bitcoin only club right here in Lancaster. So each kind of club kind of offers a little bit something different. The Bitcoin John, they're more on the Socratic seminar approach. Us moving forward in the Philadelphia Bitcoin Club, we're going to be more workshop based, trying to give things that the plebs can actually do at home. We'll be having people for mining, for node builds, building out seed signers, and just an array of different things that the everyday pleb can do. Just trying to give the practical things. I'm not one to sit on a soapbox and sit here and preach to people about it. I just want to give people the information and the resources that they can do to get on their Bitcoin journey. Yeah, we're not like I said, we're not here to kiss anybody's ass. That's certainly not me. I don't believe in lifting being picking up anybody's boots here, but it's I just want to kind of help spread the network, do my part, and try to spread the adoption. I think Bitcoin is a great and valuable asset that most people still don't understand, and even most people in the space still quite don't understand. I've been in the space since 2016, 2017. So it's or 2017. So it's and I'm still learning. Like I said, Bitcoin's a forever going journey, and get ready to let SeedHammer kind of talk about his project, kind of how the project came from concept to full-blown product, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you very much, Eric. So I'm from SeedHammer, as you said, if I had to sum up the project, its mission is to get Bitcoiners to sleep well at night, or sort of calm their OCD about their Bitcoin storage or their self custody the Bitcoin. And the project started way back when I myself, I must have been a year or two ago at the run-up of the last ATH all-time high. You had this idle thought of how do you actually store Bitcoin in self-custody in the best way possible, right? And the way there are of course many different ways to do this. You can different ways to store them, different ways to hide them, to spread them in multisig and so on. But for me personally, and for the others on the SeedHammer project, the metal storage solution was ideal for. There are some drawbacks, of course, but the ideal is to have something that is very durable. And stainless steel is just in so many ways superior in the sense that it can withstand a high temperature, a lot of stresses, bending, shearing. You can basically have your house burned down, and if you can still find your plates, then they will be legible, whatever, if you have engraved or cut something deep enough into the plates. So given steel plates, the next question was, what is the ideal, what is the thing you want to store on a steel plate? And of course, the basic thing you can do is just store, your 12 or 24 word seed phrase. And then the question comes, would you like to add a password or not? But let's just pretend or not pretend, what the passwords are a good idea, but they also they run the risk of being forgotten. So the next ideal, at least in our minds, were that to store something for long term in very high durability with a very high chance of actually recovering your funds over many years, after many years, you need to store something without passwords, but it could be with passwords or not. But you also don't want to store for example, a seed phrase on a metal plate without a password, with where you can just, if someone finds it or it steals it from you, they can just spend your Bitcoin. And that's the usual reason that you add a password. So instead of going the password way, we thought, okay, so multi-signature setups, N of M, so the setup where you can do, for example, 3 plates or 5 plates, and you only need a certain you only need the majority of them in the usual case to recover your funds seemed ideal. So, for example, a 2 out of 3 where 3 plates are made and then 2 plates can recover your funds, or if you are even more careful, you can do 5 plates and 3 out of the 5 can recover your funds. And of course, that's a good idea in the sense that you can tolerate a loss of 1 or 2 plates, and you can spread out your plates in different geographical locations and so on. But the downside, of course, is that the setup is more complex. And the primary complexity of a multi-sig setup, of course, wallet software hides much of this complexity. But the primary fundamental complexity of a multi-signature setup, such as a 2 out of 3 or a 3 out of 5, is that you both need the majority of the seeds, so 2 or 3 seeds, but you also need the public information, the XPubs of the remaining, the seeds that you don't have. Which means in practical terms, most setup guides I've seen or we've seen is that you have your seed words 3 or 5 and you spread them out, and with each seed you add a paper or a disk or something that contains the full wallet descriptor, all the XPubs. So you have everything to recover your wallet. Or some people will simply not do that and rely on, without them knowing, that their wallet saves the complete wallet descriptor. So then when they recover their funds, or once you spend their funds, they just bring the 2 Cs, see that it works, and thinks, okay, I can do this even if I implicitly lose my phone or my computer or whatever. And that was, to us, that was not acceptable. So that if that's not acceptable, then it demands that it requires you to store these XPubs with the plates. And our thinking was then, okay, we can store the seeds on plates. You can hammer them you can find these rods with letters and digits and so on, and you can then hammer the seeds into the plates if you want. But we also need to store the XPubs in the same, as I said, to sleep well at night, you want to store them at the same durability as the seeds, because they're kind of as important. They're public. The fact that the XPubs are public are more. That's done in the dimension of how much would you lose if you lost the XPub or leaked it to someone. But the importance of spending your Bitcoin, the XPubs are just as important as the seeds. So that demanded that the XPubs were written on the steel plates as well. And I've actually tried to do a setup where I did hammer it in this manually, hammer and rods, hammered in the seed phrases on metal plates, and also the XPubs. Obviously not the QR codes that we do in SeedHammer, but the full XPub, the 126 or 28 characters, and that was really, 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 really tedious. So that was sort of where the idea for SeedHammer started, where we thought, okay, how can we do this with a machine? And of course, you can do it with a CNC cutter. You can ask someone on the internet to laser engrave your seeds and XPubs on plates, but of course, that will not work in practice, because then your seeds are leaked. So the next logical step was, how easily, how cheaply can we have a machine to do this? And we first tried to do CNC machines, which is kind of the cheap ones you can buy with a fragile frame and then a motor running with a drill on it. And we tried to use that to drill or to mill the seed phrases and XPubs and steel plates. But that didn't work. It was slow, and when it wasn't slow, the drill tips would often break. So the next thing we wanted to do laser, but the power of a laser that can meaningfully engrave deeply enough in steel was simply too inconvenient for a regular consumer to use. I think you need at least 50 watts or more of a CO2 laser, as far as I know, a fiber laser, to do any meaningful damage to steel plates. And then we found this very similar to what we actually did by hand. where you have a hammer and a rod to hammer in the digits and letters, we found the current version of this machine. And we've been pretty much working ever since on making that capable of. The machine itself can engrave all sorts of things. So the primary bulk of the work have been done into the controller software and thinking about the use cases and how a consumer, how a user of this machine that are not us would use it, and how we can encourage as much as possible for these users to be to verify our setup. So that's another very important thing, that it's not as important when you do something for yourself, because you trust yourself, obviously. But if you want to make this into an actual product, then comes the whole, how can we sell this to someone that then that won't need to trust us? So a lot of effort and work and thoughts have gone into that aspect as well. I can go more deeply into that if you're interested. So yeah, we spent maybe, I want to say, a year or so. We spent so far on just developing the machine, with a few modifications and the software to it, the instructions. Not as much the instructions itself, but more what is the process if you sit down with a SeedHammer and until you get the plates, how do you test it, how to verify it, where do you until we leave you and say, okay, now you have your wallet and you can do with it whatever you want. Yeah, I think that's about it. I suppose everyone has seen the Twitter page and the few videos we've posted there. Unfortunately, we don't have as much information yet as we'd like to, but that will change soon. So yeah, I think that's about it for the introduction. Yeah, exactly.
So I'll kind of share my screen here and kind of go over, kind of want to ask you some questions I have some calls and I'll open it up here for people. Do you currently have a price? You guys have are you guys fixed down on a price yet, and a possible release date for the public yet?
So we have a pre-order price of 450, but we will fulfill that for pre-orders, but we haven't decided completely on what will the after pre-order price be, but it'll be in around that ballpark. And as far as delivery, well, that's that's typically very difficult to say with certainty, but we hope, that's our current hope, without barring too many problems and future development that I may be able to talk about. We hope to ship the first machines sometime in January.
And also for the 24, for the 20, if you say you had a 24 word one, how would you do that and able to get the XPubs with the QR on there, or would it have to be on a separate plate for the QR? Could the machine process the 24 words and still put the XPubs and the QR on there as well?
Yes, we have two kinds of plates. We have the credit card plates that you see in the video here, which is the most convenient ones and nicest ones to use. And they support single sig and they can fit single sig and multi sig for 2 out of 3. If you go up to 3 out of 4, to have enough information from 3 plates to recover all 5 XPubs, you need 2 XPubs on each backside, which means that we have a larger. We needed to go up to a slightly larger plate, which is square. I think it's one of our most recent videos. There you go. There's the square plate being printed, and that will fit 24 words, as you can tell. Right now we have 12 words, of course, but the QR code is very large. But we can just shrink that down to the size of. I imagine we haven't done this yet, but I imagine we can shrink down the QR code to the same size as the smaller plates, and then fit in the 24 words. For the XPub, fortunately, XPubs are unaffected by the length of your seed. So the XPubs are the same, 128 characters long. So that won't affect it. And that's also why we haven't done words yet, but it's not that much more work. So without promising it, I think we're going to be doing 24 words. If not at release, then very soon after.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I got a bunch of questions, but I'll let anybody open it up. Anybody just come off your mic, just ask a question. All right, I got a bunch
Hi,
more.
I
Oh,
have a
sorry.
question actually. Yeah. Hi, thanks for joining us. I just had a question about how has it been tested? How has your product been tested?
In the physical sense, or the integrity of the data sense, or both?
Well, both, I guess. Yeah. I was thinking the physical sense, but both. Yeah.
Yeah, so the physical sense, we haven't tested it. We haven't done any physical tests of it on it, but we're using the same type of steel and the same thickness as many. There are, of course, many of these manual steel plate engraving products available on the market, and they typically use either titanium, which has different properties, but if they're steel based, they typically use steel of comparables type to ours. With respect to the physical, the integrity testing, that's actually the interesting part. We've of course done a lot of tests ourselves, but the interesting part for you as a potential customer is that in our instructions or in our whole guide to do this, you will verify everything on the plates. So in the sense that, of course, we do the testing, so it will almost certainly be correct. But the more interesting thing is, as you produce these plates and as you test it and set up your wallet, you will be testing each and every data element of the plates. You will test that the seeds actually correspond to the XPubs. You will test, you will verify, not test, verify that the seeds corresponds to the XPubs, that the QR codes correspond to respectively the seeds and the XPubs. And we'll guide you through a test transaction and so on, so you can verify it for yourself that what has been produced by the machine actually works. And also, as you can see from this picture, there's a set of dice in the corner. We strongly encourage you to make your own seed words through your own randomness, in this case, just dice, so that you can be certain that the machine doesn't, or the controller device, of course, generates seed phrases for you that we know about. So everything has been, all of this, the whole of SeedHammer and all these components have been designed so that each customer, each user can verify the result of it. Did that answer your question? Or do you have more?
I got a quick question. How you doing?
Thank you.
So how do you feel? I guess what's the thought about I guess walking around with a plate with your words and the QR code, right? In terms of like from an OPSEC point of view, is this is not meant to leave the house, I take it, or you maybe you get a version of it that maybe you only put a QR code on it and you can sign things in private, but maybe worry about somebody snapping a picture of your plate while it's in your hand. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is, I would say this is not specific to SeedHammer, but of course, it's not, even though they're credit card sized, they're not intended for you to carry around in your wallet if you don't, if you have any significant amount of Bitcoin. But there are also multiple use cases. For example, you mentioned Seed Signer, which we're big fans of Seed Signer because they're stateless. And we've actually not, I wouldn't say designed to Seed Signer, but we might as well have designed this for to use Seed Signer as the companion, because well, I'll answer your question first. So this is intended to leave your house in the sense that if you have a 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 setup, usually you want to have distribute your plates in different places. So not just, let's say, 5 places, plates hidden 5 places in your house, but maybe 1 or 2 plates in your house and another plate at somewhere at your, what do I know, your summer house or something, and the third plate somewhere else, and so on. So in that sense, they're intended to leave your house, but of course not necessarily on you. But the other part of the answer is that you can, with a Seed Signer and with the ease of scanning the QR codes, you can have several layers, and also because the machine makes it much easier to produce, of course, that you don't have to hammer for hours. You can have a cold storage, so everything is self-custodial, of course, but you can have multiple layers. So you can have a set, let's say, if you're really paranoid and have a bunch of Bitcoin, you can have 3 or 5 and hide them really well and almost never use it. And then you can have another layer, which is either a single sig plate or a 2 out of 3 setup that is in your house that you can use for, let's say, in everyday spending, or let's say to top up your warm wallet on the phone, or to top up your Bitcoin debit card, whatever. And because you have a QR code, and if you have a seed signer or a Jade, you can. It's almost, I would even say, in some cases, more easier to use the plates and devices than using just a hardware wallet with your seed inside it. And as with respect, of course, to someone taking a picture and all that, well, I would personally never do Bitcoin transactions where people I couldn't trust were around me. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate it. Yeah, makes sense. It's still within this context of cold storage, really, right?
I call it a lukewarm storage, the thing where we can have fewer Bitcoin, but still on something durable, because you also want to have your lukewarm storage on something durable as well, if you have a machine anyway. Yeah.
Yes, and I've done the Sharpie thing with the QR, and this is pretty exciting to see a machine do it.
How long is it until product hits the market?
What do you mean, until we deliver or ship?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you start delivering, when will like somebody puts a pre-order in, say I want to put a pre-order in today, how long is it you guys looking to get this out there?
So as I said, we hope to ship sometime in January, but we don't, just to make it clear, we don't accept payment from anyone, any of our pre-orders until we're ready to ship. So let's say we delay it until February or something. It doesn't mean that we'll hold on to your money or anything. When we're ready to actually ship the machine, we'll contact you or do it on Twitter. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do. So pre-ordering is mostly to see what people are interested in, but also to have a sort of a queue if we're going to have to ramp up the production of these machines, especially if there are many pre-orders. So that the pre-orders will sort of form a queue of first in, first out in terms of shipping, and of course also serve as an incentive to join early with a good price.
Now, is it just Bitcoin as form of payment?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what signature devices or wallets are compatible? Obviously, you mentioned Seed Signer. We've seen the demo with the Blockstream Jade. Is there any ones currently that you can use, or anything coming down the pipeline as well?
As far as I know, we're compatible with every for the single sig setup. We're compatible with everything that can accept a 12-word seed. So that's, I think, pretty much every hardware wallet on the market. With respect to the XPubs, you of course need a coordinator software that could either be something like Blue Wallet, it could be something like Sparrow or Spectre or something. So you need something with multi-signatures support, obviously. But if you have that, as long as you have that, then, and they can accept a 12-word seed for each multi-signature part, then it should be compatible.
And then are you guys going to be open sourcing the software for the device, or
yes.
Okay.
All software we're making will be actually put in the public domain, but it's basically the same as open sourcing.
And then the app that you have here, is this going to be open for like a Droid iOS, or how's it the app that I saw that you mentioned on Twitter?
Yeah, so the app is right now runs on Android, Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and on Linux also covers small machines such as the Raspberry Pi. It could, because the basis of it is portable. It could run on the iPhone, but we haven't tried to do it. I don't even know whether. Well, there will have to be added some support for the particular of the iPhone with respect to USB port. Using the USB port to communicate with an external device will have to be written, but it's not something that I think we will do ourselves, because an iPhone is just a pain to install apps that are not from the App Store.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I got one. So this seems basically kind of like a printer on metal. And you might recall that there's always been some concern that if you print your private keys on a printer that might be used by somebody else, somehow that information might be like stored inside the printer or persist or something. So are there any like memory chips inside the SeedHammer itself that can store the information?
Yes, there's the controller board, which is a microcontroller with you see below the black plate on the image. There's the power supply, and there's control electronics to control the two axes and the hammer, on off the hammer, and of course the interface to the USB port.
So
But
does that mean
to
that
be clear,
the information
we're not
would
storing.
not?
So just to be clear, we're not storing anything, but there is the potential for you as a customer when you have this machine, and that's the risk you have to ascertain whether you want to, when you're considering borrowing, lending this out to other people, is that there is electronics in the machine.
Typically, what's the workload? How long does it take to go from for the whole printing process on the plate iPhone, like the whole hammering process, should I say?
I don't have the exact numbers. It's in the minutes per side. Depends on whether you're printing, for example, the 2X pops on the backside of a SH02, which is the larger plate for a 3.5 setup. It obviously takes twice as long as the backside of just a single X pop backside. But it's in the minutes. Let's say 5-10 minutes for the smaller plates, something in that ballpark. We're actually this is the lowest speed. We've tested with the lowest speed of the machine. So the engraving process that gives you the deepest engraving. But I also think that the machine is designed to run fast. So I think we can tweak. We still have some room to tweak the speed and make that maybe half of as much time. But it's in the minutes per side.
Okay, and then just the last question I had. How often you get a misprint? Is it pretty accurate? You guys seen from testing so far that it's been pretty hit spot on as far as the hammering process.
Yeah, the machine is a general purpose machine made for engraving of all sorts of things, and you may be able to tell just from the sturdiness of it that it's designed and intended to be in a workshop where you can use it for all sorts of things, and it has to be rugged because it'll be treated like a tool. And as far as our testing has gone, we've never had any problems with the printing or the machine itself. The only problem we've had, if we've had a faulty USB connection to the device and the USB connection drops while printing, then the printing, of course, is interrupted, and the device can't pick that up from even if you put in the USB cable again. And then you have to either you have to pretty much start over from at least from that plate.
Thank you. And that's the last question I had. Does anybody have any more questions? I'll take that as a no.
I
Sorry.
apologize if you said this already. Are there any type of like technical support if something like that were to happen? Like just because I know I am.
Yeah, of course. We will have right now we only have Twitter, of course, but we'll have a support email address, or maybe in the future we'll have a support system on the website. We'll have a website eventually for ordering and for seeing more of the product and details and so on, of course.
Now, would just one last question. Would you be able to obviously you have the plates, is there any plans to maybe like say something like the put it here to maybe use it like on the nuts and bolts? Is there anything possible like you can use for that if somebody wanted to get a little bit different?
It's theoretically possible because the machine, as I said, is general purpose. It's not something we have planned. But if you have some technical skills, the app will be open source, public domain, and the machine itself is pretty much just X, Y, and then turn on or off the hammer, then you can print all sorts of things. We want to do gift cards or gift plates if you can. We want to do, for example, because one of the not biggest problem, of course, but once you have this machine, you can do all sorts of things. And one of my problems personally has been I want to give Bitcoin for birthdays and wedding presents, and also. And I usually just show up with an envelope with a piece of paper in it with a QR code or a seed phrase, and then I just sign that and say, here's your gift. And most people, if they're not Bitcoin, they'll see this and say, what is this? Some sort of gift card to somewhere, and you even made it yourself. What is this? And then I have to go through the explanations. This is a Bitcoin, and you can use it, But the initial impression is not that great. So one of the things we also want to do is to make maybe boxes or sleeves and have different color plates or different shape plates, so that and then maybe some built-in designs and so on. And this builds into the question you did: can it do anything else than what it can do right now? And yes, I hope for this to be one of the reasons that you buy this. You will of course make it for yourself, this setup or a few setups, but then after that, what you're going to use the machine for. And I hope that it'll be useful for your family, your friends, and again for gifts or pretty much. And that's one of the reasons that I want these. You can do these credit card size. You can actually have it in your wallet. I have one with me just to show what the project is about, but you can have one to show people with a little bit of Bitcoin on it, or even without Bitcoin, just to show your friends and family what it's actually about. And when someone that are not Bitcoiners get a steel plate in their hands, there's, I think, a touch of human psychology in this. That this is actually something sturdy, something durable. This is something, instead of just a piece of paper or an abstract explanation.
I just seen here the burner phone that comes with the order. Is that also going to be the software? That's all going to be open source, correct? Just to verify.
So this is recorded. So this is something that we didn't plan to say until we came further.
Gotcha. Okay, no, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's sorry. What has happened, but it hasn't been worth mentioning yet, is that it's actually very, very much more expensive to ship phones with batteries inside. So we are actually not gonna ship with a burner phone. And then the question, also because, can you trust a burner phone? Will it have Wi-Fi? Will it have everything? There are many different difficulties with shipping a burner phone. So the initial plan was to ship it without, and of course decrease the price a little bit, corresponding to the burner phone. But we've actually also been thinking, what can we do better than requiring you to have an old laptop, an old phone, a Raspberry Pi lying around. It's not necessarily that you have one of these devices, and even if you do, it's a per device specific procedure to install the software. So what we have in mind, but haven't done yet, is to actually ship a seed signer, basically. So we'd like to ship a seed signer, and we'd like for the controller software to run on the seed signer, basically.
Well, that's great. Yeah, if nobody has any more questions, you can find them at SeedHammer on Twitter. Truly appreciate you taking the time out. Definitely explaining the product to us. I'll definitely be in your message is definitely gonna get a pre-order in here. So like I said, I appreciate you taking your time out to explain everything to us, and can't wait to see this. Can't wait to see it and get it released and get one in my hands and start playing with it. So thank you for your time. Thank everybody for showing up. And again, I'll have this up. I'll have video up later tonight on YouTube if you guys want to play anything back, if you missed anything. And like I said, thank you again, SeedHammer. I appreciate you taking the time and the call right here. Thank you guys and gals.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.